like and subscribe to our page, mostly because it's actually nighttime and I'm in my bathrobe and morning time and night.
Yeah.
Make sure
I'm not standing up and showing you all the pajama pants, but like this is pajama shirt too. This is the I think 2010, one of the only years they actually made the playoffs. Maybe the only year they actually made the playoffs. So this is the Gerald Wallace years.
we have two great love songs.
Yeah.
Like the
That was
covers.
actually one of the things I wrote down here is would you consider this a love song? We'll get to that in a second. Today we're hitting You Got Me by the Roots and Erykah Badu, kind of as a teaser or a getting ready for Black Thought and Danger Mouse's album Friday. We're recording this on what's today, August 9th. So we're waiting that impatiently, or I am anyway. I think you all are too, given what I've heard you say on According to Hip Hop. And we're doing You Got Me from Things Fall Apart and Jolene by Dolly Parton. So on the surface seem pretty distant in style, but I think we'll find that they have a lot in common.
I mean, I think actually that was my first note after listening to both records is that, well, it immediately makes sense when you actually listen to the records, like immediately, you
Mm-hmm.
know. So we'll kind of get into that. I mean, even stylistically with the guitar lick.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
like you got me. Almost sounds like it could have sampled that same lick and slowed it down.
It could have. Yeah. I didn't think about that, but you're right. It could have.
No, it definitely feels that way. Yeah, has that same feeling. But we can kind of start. I mean, where are we starting today? I mean,
I want to start with the Roots because um, the Roots, for those of you who don't know me, like this is one of the Things Fall Apart. That album is one of the only hip hop albums I ever bought, like when I was in high school. And
okay.
it's that one and Wyclef's Carnival, unless Miseducation counts. I don't know if Miseducation counts as a hip hop album or not. It's kind of, I mean, there's some hip hop songs and some R&B, and I mean, it's a mix, um, but, but yeah, I love that record. I think a lot of this is a good place I need to open it. I think fans of like rock music and white people or whatever white people music or whatever like the Roots or have a different kind of appreciation, or this has been my observation anyway, or it's at least been my experience. Um, have more appreciation for the Roots because they're a band. Like they have a drummer and a guitarist and a bass player, and like it is
Keyboard.
right exactly. It is like if you watch them perform, it's recognizable as a band and not just a group of people rapping. And that's not to diminish the skill level involved in just rapping, but it is like if I watch the Roots perform, like I recognize there's a drummer, there's a bass player, there's like you see the checkpoints that say, oh, that's a band in your head.
No, I agree with you on all of those things. They are more appealing to white people because they're a band. And I actually want to piggyback off that and say it's actually surprising to me that it took so long for them to cross over.
Mm,
Like,
yeah,
I mean, I was familiar with them from Do You Want More,
right.
which is, I believe, 1994.
Mm-hmm.
So, and before that, they released an album independently, I believe, called Organics, or Interscope might have put it out, Interscope
Mm-hmm.
Geffen, I believe, like, which was around 90, 91.
Mm-hmm.
So their crossover appeal didn't really happen, obviously, with this Grammy winning single. And this is what, 1999?
It is 98, 99. Yeah, this one is.
98,
Yeah.
So yeah, so I mean, this is the culmination. A lot of people who are getting familiar with them. I'm like, oh, who's this really, new cool hip hop band? And it's like those of us familiar. It's like, man, it feels like they've been around for about a decade. You
Yeah.
know. So one of the things about the record and the crossover appeal that's so striking to me is that, well, they've done love songs before. Um, but to your point about even the crossover appeal, well, I think the person doing the track had something to do with it too.
Okay.
Because although this is a live band and they usually do most of their own production, they have had producers at times, and
Okay.
Scott Storch is one of those producers. And Scott Storch is the main producer of this song,
Okay.
the white Jewish guy.
So he's another. what's the guy's name? Jimmy Iovine, like that kind of.
Yeah,
He's
he's
not, he's
like
not Jimmy Iovine, obviously, but it's
he's
like it's different.
he's not the Jimmy Iovine's level, but for a moment in hip hop terms, he
Yeah,
was. For a moment, he was kind of Jimmy Iovine like. His, I mean, Jimmy Iovine's probably more known as an engineer than producer, though.
right.
Well, I mean, well, from the producer side of things, very kind of like Iovine, like to stay in that community, so to
Mhm.
speak, and
Okay.
in the sphere of music. And Storch has done some brilliant stuff. This might be his most notable hip
Yeah.
hop contribution as well. So
I love this song. Like I it was one of those like I hadn't gone back and listened to Things Fall Apart, the album that this comes from, in a long time. And like I'd sort of forgotten about this song. And then I heard it and I was like, oh yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. Because you were the one who suggested this one, like you wanted to do the song. I was like, and I didn't remember it until I listened to Badu's hook really, and I'm like, oh yeah, I remember that.
well, part of the reason why I did want to do this song is because it's the Roots' biggest hit. And
Okay.
so vocally, it is the most notable song Black Thought has done.
Mm-hmm.
I believe, based on what I've heard three songs off this project he's about to drop with Danger Mouse.
Yeah.
Based on what I've heard, I think this is about to be his finest solo work yet.
Yeah.
But I wanted to highlight this song because I want to highlight that although Black Thought is part of the Roots, he is the composer of a lot of classic hip hop songs via the Roots.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of wanted to highlight it. And this is a good way to notably highlight some of his good
Mm-hmm.
stuff,
Yeah.
as a writer, as an MC, to kind of show it's like, well, part of a band, but kind of got tons of like dope ass solo material. This is kind of one of those
Yeah.
moments. I also want to say right quick before I let you back in that why I love this record and why I love When Things Fall Apart is kind of a reflection of who the Roots are to Philly. A lot of artists are getting put on from Philly, and a lot of it has to do with their contributions to this album. The lead single, Adrenaline, features, I believe, a still then unsigned Beanie Siegel, who would
Okay.
end up signing Jay Z's Rockefeller. Adrenaline's the first single off Things
Okay.
Fall Apart. Not You Got Me. You Got Me is the second single.
Okay.
Now, You Got Me is actually co-written by a then unknown R&B songstress by the name of Jill Scott.
Oh yeah. Yeah. Jill Scott
So,
is one of my very favorites. So this is not an episode about her, but
yeah,
like that voice, like we've talked about this before. Like she does not have the like greatest voice in music history or whatever. I mean, it's really great, but it's not like Whitney great. But like it's still, but it's one of everybody has those voices that like touch something, like have hooks in your heart or whatever. And hers is one of those voices for me. Like there's just something about it that moves me in a way that a lot of other people don't.
no, I would agree with that sentiment. I think most people, she's a whole vibe. Like to love Jill Scott is to love the whole vibe. I've seen her live a couple of times. She gives a stellar live performance as well, in addition to being a wonderful singer and an
Mm-hmm.
accomplished hit maker. And I can go on and on about Jill Scott. But this is kind of Jill Scott's proverbial coming out party too,
Mm-hmm.
because she obviously wrote this hook with Black Thought.
Okay.
Now, the label is the reason that you're hearing Erykah Badu on the record because Jill Scott was still unknown at the time. This is before her first album even drops. That's what
Yeah,
I
I
mean
didn't know
about.
that. That's a good
Yeah,
thing to because the hook does sound Jill Scott-ish. Like it
yeah,
sounds like her
yeah.
style.
It's what well that's what I mean. It's kind of that vibe that I was just speaking to.
Hmm.
Well, this is the start of that Jill Scott vibe, actually, even though you're hearing Erykah Badu sing it. Erykah Badu is singing it because the label wanted somebody bigger. Nobody knows who Jill Scott is at the time. This song is part of the reason why her first album is called Who is Jill Scott?
Right. I didn't know that, but I knew that was the name of her album. But like it's
Right. I mean, you see how everything kind of gets framed
yeah.
together because now, and this is what I mean, part of her fame started to go on with it is that, well, Erykah Badu, this is like Erykah Badu at her peak when she's doing this record, like
Yeah.
commercially speaking. So she's not going out and touring and performing this big single that's changing their lives, quite frankly.
Hmm.
But Jill Scott is because it's changing her life too. And so
Yeah.
you're getting Erykah
Okay.
Badu on the actual studio version, but those are Jill Scott's words. And then when they're going out live subsequently, it's mostly Jill Scott singing it, and
Okay.
it's hers anyway. And so the only time you really get Erykah is when you hear it on the radio and when you
Okay.
hear it on the album. It's other than that, it kind of belongs to Jill Scott. So, and this is what I mean, how important the roots are to Philly and how Philly grown they are. So think about it. The first single, Adrenaline, has Beanie Siegel on it, who's then an unknown rap artist. And then you get to You Got Me. Well, they're putting Jill Scott in the game, but also too, there's a young lady who's sharing mic time with Black Thought on this record. That's Eve.
Oh, really?
That's Eve. Eve is from Philly. That's Eve on You Got Me. The lady that's rapping on You Philly.
Okay. I
But
didn't
I
think
mean,
that was Badu. I didn't know who it was, but like
no,
I didn't think it was her. But
that's Eve from
okay.
Rough Riders, from What You Want. She's from Philly too. So look at it. These are three artists coming out of Philly that are about to be major. And in this case of Jill Scott and Eve, like multi-platinum artists,
Hmm.
and they're on When Things Fall Apart when they're nobodies. But
That's
they're
super
on
cool.
these hit singles for the Roots. So kind of see how the Roots kind of even bring their community with them.
Hmm.
It's
Yeah.
kind of one of those hip hop, like they may be a hip hop band, but they keep it more hip hop than a lot of people. They really put the talent on from their city on their back and on their best stuff.
Yeah. That's cool. Like, and
Yeah,
this makes me love them even more. I didn't know all this stuff about them, but like it's
yeah, they're awesome. This is part of the reason why I'm such a big fan too. So
yeah.
these are some of the things that you see and that you hear that kind of take the formation of the song. So if it feels kind of like Jill Scottish, it's like, well, it is.
That makes a lot of sense because like the way the phrases are put
Phraseology,
together
the way the
is
words put
is
together.
very, very much like
Yeah, because Jill is more of like a hard hitter and enunciator. Badu is more of a scatter.
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And I don't think we can get out of this episode without saying that most of the big wider culture knows the Roots as the band for Jimmy Fallon. But
Easy.
like
This song helped start that too. That's what I mean. This song helped start all of that. It jump started so many careers, but it took the Roots somewhere else too. I still feel like their previous album, Philadelphia Half Life, is
mhm,
just as good as, if not better.
yeah, that's what I've heard a lot of people say. Yeah.
Well, nobody knows it because, well, Philadelphia Half Life. This is what I mean about how Black Thought has been composing wonderful love songs for a while. There's a song on Philadelphia Half Life called "The Hypnotic" with
Okay.
D'Angelo singing the hook, and I find it to be just as beautiful a love song as "You Got Me"
Hmm.
in a different way, and definitely should have been pushed as a single. And that's what I mean. This could have like happened for them sooner because
Yeah.
they've already done the great love song with a great R&B singer on the hook on the previous album 2 years before.
Yeah.
Like they literally just got done doing it. It's like, but nobody kind of knew who it was
Yeah.
or who they were.
I heard Fallon telling the story of like how they got the Roots to be like I guess you call it the house band
House man, yeah,
for
proverbial.
that for the late night show or whatever.
Never had an MC like Black Thought in a house band though.
No, no, no,
Saying
no,
what I'm
no.
saying.
I mean, the number of MCs that are like Black Thought in the world is that's a
So
very
one
short
hand
list.
conversation.
But Fallon tells a story like they were asking him like when they told him like this is your job or whatever when they hired him like who do you want for the band, and he kind of said the Roots is kind of a joke like thinking like there's no way they're going to say yes to that. They're like way too big and way too famous and way too whatever. There's no way they're going to say that. And the story goes that he had to like harass them, not harass them like in a negative way, but like say, "Will you do it? Will you do it? Will you do it?" And they're like, "Fine, finally." So I do like that they're getting some like a wider audience for to recognize they're extraordinary musicians too.
Mhm.
Like really super talented. Like Amir Questlove's dad was like a jazz musician. Like and he played drums for him while he was still in high school. Like this is a it's they are like super accomplished musicians. They're not just um
I mean,
boom bapping on the table. Not that that's a bad thing. I'm just saying like
no, there's nothing wrong with that either. But I mean, these guys. I mean,
these are
especially
serious
early.
musicians.
I was about to say, especially on like notoriously like. I mean, their early like stage behind the scenes and show work ethic is notorious.
Hmm.
To be
They were
quite frank,
buskers too. Like they played on street corners.
that's what I mean. It's
Yeah.
notorious. They're notorious. Like on what level do you want somebody to be dedicated to? On a street corner, in school, in the label, on stage,
Mhm.
in their free time. You feel what I'm
Yep.
saying? Like, yeah, like the consistency and the constantness of it, like on all different levels, that they are phenomenal. Like they're legendary, like the EP says that they released right after this album.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. If you go back, this is the first time that I mean I've listened to the album a bunch, yeah. Um, and this is the first time I've like sat down and listened to the song like closely, like and like not tried to pick it apart, but like try to hear like how the song is put together and whatever. The first thing that I like jumps out to me is the beat that he's playing. It's like the word I wrote down was skittering. Like it's almost like a break beat that he's playing.
Mhm.
It's I can't do it, but like
I know what
um
you're talking about. I never
it
thought of it like that.
but it's I mean it has the groove to it too, but it also has this other it's almost like he's playing like two sets of drums at once almost. Like it's
That feels like two different drum patterns going on.
yeah, so it I don't know. It's just extraordinarily skillful. And I and it's the kind of thing that people would do like on a drum machine in a studio, but he's like actually sitting behind a drum kit playing it.
And you want to know it? I mean, and I don't know how this is going to. The beat sounds very, very clean and very crisp when
Hmm.
it hits your ears.
Yeah.
You know, like everything, like it's it's just one of those things when a band is in a zone and everything comes together and you hear it and you feel it down to the
Yeah.
like you hear all of it and you're like, no, they're hitting like all of their it's
Yep.
all it's happening.
It's sharp. Yeah.
This record production wise, oh, it's all happening, and you know, and this is Black Thought, you know, rapping, you know, so it's tactician wise going to be skillfully told
Yeah.
and woven, you
Yeah.
know, yeah. So, I mean, lyrically, where do you want to like unpack this? Because
Like the place I was writing down, we have to obviously we have to get into like how skillful a lyricist he is, and I think a good jumping off point for me is like he's able to. There are not many people, and we talked about Toni Morrison in the last episode and Zora Neale Hurston and people like that, and their skills are similar to this in the sense that they are able to capture dialect, street language, that kind of thing in their writing, and like
intelligent
incredibly
vernacular,
elevated diction too. Like,
yes.
I mean, he's got the verse "We back in Philly now. She up in my spot and telling me the things I'm telling her, making her a lot hot." Like that's all those are that's very simple diction. I mean, the execution of it's beautiful, but the diction, the words he chooses are super simple. And then like the previous verse, he's rhyming Elise Montmartre with "piece of her heart." Like
Get out.
it's. I'm like,
That's actually where I want to start
yeah,
lyrically with this song. So I'm
yeah,
glad that you brought that up. She says she loved my show in Paris at Elise Montmartre, and that I stepped off the stage and took a
a
piece of
piece of
her
her
heart.
heart. Yep,
Okay, so let's unpack a
that's
couple
just
things. First of all, no, this is what I mean historically, and why Black Thought is so skillful as a writer, even on another level at times. At the time when he's writing this, they're actually bigger in Europe than they are in the States.
okay.
They're notoriously touring in Europe around this time. The legendary EP that comes out right after this is a 6 EP of them doing live show in Europe. I think it might have been
Oh, okay,
Belgium. Yeah, go look up the legendary EP, 6 songs of them live in Europe.
okay. I'm gonna write that
So
down.
yeah, the legendary EP, 6 songs. It was a little blue CD when it came out.
Go ahead, keep going. I got it.
Okay, but so the first thing that I thought when he brought up Paris, I'm like, and he brings it up. And
Yeah.
when I'm overseas on tour, I met this Ethiopian queen from Philly taking classes abroad. So very Toni Morrison, like in
Mm.
terms of the ability to elevate and digress the diction
Yeah.
masterfully and interweave them.
Yeah.
Like
The
it
flash
that
focus record is the part one of the ones that sticks in my head too.
flash folk, yes, that's you know, you're an English teacher, Andrew. You're a writer. Like you know how fucking beautiful that is to put
Yeah.
that together. You know? and to put it together in a fashion, as we've talked about behind the scene, digestible,
Yeah.
understandable, but
He's
also
telling a story, and the story is really clear. Like it's
well, it's educational, informational. So he's kind of subtly letting you know where he's at. Like they tour overseas a lot. He's
mhm.
familiar with Paris. Like I'm not your normal rapper, you
It's,
know?
it's a fun juxtaposition too, because the beginning of the story is he's talking about meeting a woman after the show in Paris that, or yeah, meeting the woman after the show in Paris that lived on the same floor of his apartment building in Philly, but he never met her there.
Right,
Which kind of mirrors what you were saying about them being more famous there in Europe than they were here. Like
right.
he's like
He's
a
literally
legend
telling.
there, and like
Yeah.
he doesn't even meet people like who live two doors down from him or whatever. I mean, I know there are a lot more people on the floor than that, but you know what I mean.
No, but the juxtaposition, that's what I mean about how skillful he is as a writer on this, even though it's a love song, is that, well, he's really breaking down a lot of what's going on with them as a band,
Mm-hmm.
their view in the States. Like he does a lot with that. And also, too, it's educational because there's somebody that's been to Paris and is a big fan of this song. Guess one of the places that I wanted to see when I was in Paris. You feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So there's an impact on culture that comes with him being educational and informative, with him alluding to specific details of where he was in Paris. Like I've been in that portion of Paris. That's a very nice portion of Paris that he's in. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so when you actually go and see where he's talking about, and it's like, oh, Black Thought's chilling here in Paris in 1998, 99. Like
Good for
this ain't,
him.
you
Good
get
for
what I
you,
mean?
man. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing when you can actually go to a place like that and see what he saw and to be in the area that was in. It's like, oh, Black Thought was here in '98. It's like, oh, okay, I see you, dude. And
Yeah.
and that's the type of beautiful stuff in the writing where it's inspiring to people like me that are teenagers like
Mm-hmm.
you are listening to the song. It's like I want to see that when I go to Paris one day. I want to see what
Yeah.
Thought's talking about. So there's a few juxtapositions and places to go just with that one bar.
Yep. It's one of those things like we talk about. I teach writing classes too, um, and we talk about like important details or critical details, like the
Mhm.
ones. There are certain details that can carry you a long way, and that's one of those kinds of things. And there are people from all walks of life who are less skillful writers than him that put details in there to show off, to do whatever. Like I do that in my own writing sometimes. Like I have to catch myself doing that, and just to like use you know verbal pyrotechnics or whatever, and not.
Yeah.
But this is not that. This is. I mean, he's showing off that he's in Paris, obviously, but it's for a reason. Like it's part of the story. It's an important detail of the story. It's not just to show off.
Well, this is his job. He's a rapper, and he's
Right.
and he's kind of letting her know it's like, well, I really don't make my money in the States like that. I actually make my money over here. That's why you're seeing me over here. So that's what I mean. Black Thought is very, very subtle and a smooth operator in the sense that he's kind of letting her know it's like, oh, I rap. We do it overseas. You know,
Yeah.
and regular guy stuff. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? He
Exactly.
kind he kind of just goes through his rap career. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
And he tells you, he said, I ain't with that. Oh, I'm a celebrity. I deal
Hmm.
with the real. So if
Right.
it's artificial, let it be.
Yeah.
He's kind of telling you like his whole steez is really calm, cool, and collected. And that's kind of like his moniker. He's Black Thought. He's the calm, cool, intellectual mind.
Hmm.
He's a beast on the microphone, and he's a different dude once he steps off the stage. And I think this is kind of like the illusion of that, and him even like explaining to her, it's like that's me on stage. This is me in real life, in real time,
Hmm. Yeah.
And so it's Black Thought in real time, dealing with the throes of having a complicated what's this Prince song, Strange Relationship. This
Yep.
is a strange relationship. You know what I
It
mean?
is. It's yeah. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
and I don't know. When I was listening to it back again, you've spoken a lot about black love being tenuous. That's like a thing that I've heard you say 100 times probably.
Yeah.
That's kind of that thought came into my mind as I was listening to this because
Yes.
there's love, there's romance, and there's also jealousy, and there's also mistrust, There's all of those things going on at the same
See,
time. And that's
right.
not, and I don't want to make that sound like that's just a black thing. I'm just, it's
No.
clearly not, as we will see shortly in Dolly Parton song, which is, yeah, is also about jealousy, among other things. But um, I just wanted to I just wanted to set you up to talk about that because I know that's one of your
Mm,
things.
yes. I've stated many times that Black love has a tenuous nature and overtone and undertone at times. I think this is one of those that has a tenuous undertone at moments. And
Hmm.
it's funny, most of the tenuous moments come via the female. When she
Hmm.
says, I'm politicking with my sister from New York City, she says she know this ball player
Who thinks I'm
and he
pretty?
thinks I'm pretty.
Yep.
And then she goes, psych. When she says psych, Andrew as a black man, I'm like, she's fucking lying. That's
Okay.
what I mean about the tenuous nature. It's like my inhibition as a black man, even listening to that song, is like, psych, I'm playing boo. It's just with you up. It's like, oh, he's overseas too. It's like, nah, it's not totally psych. It's
Mm,
tenuous as fuck.
yeah.
Yeah. But
That was my feeling, like from a distance, obviously, that she's playing with him one way or the other. Like either
mhm.
she's like trying to make him jealous, or she is there's a reason
E-
for him to be jealous.
either way, that's what I mean. That's that tenuous circumstance where it's like, well, what are you doing and why are you doing it?
Yeah, like
And that
why is that
why?
necessary? Like,
Yeah, why is that necessary? But that's part of the tenuous nature of the relationship. And so that's what one of the beauty is, the honesty of this record. That's what I mean. It's like, no, this is a little bit more realistic than people realize at times. Like
mhm,
it seems like the Roots' first well-crafted industry hit record. And it's actually no, it's actually like a real love song that unpacks like
mhm,
real topics and real situations. And if you're actually familiar with who the Roots are, it kind of holds true to what's going on in their life. Well, they are touring in Paris and
yep.
overseas around this time. They really are still repping Philly. Even Jill Scott and Beanie Siegel are on the album. So this is all of those things coming together. You know,
Mhm,
when
yeah.
things are falling apart, apparently.
See there. No, that's I mean the Things Fall Apart is a
Gina
reference probably for
Achebe.
them to Achebe's novel Things Fall Apart,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
comes the title which comes from Yeats's Second Coming poem. Um, you knew that? Yes, I assume.
yeah.
I don't want to like literary at you. Like I know you know most of this stuff, but like um,
No,
but both.
literary. I don't know what you know. Like you know, I haven't been in the throes of the literary academia like you have the past couple of decades. I pick up what I get to pick up and choose, but familiar with that. I was actually going to say, I know you've read When Things Fall Apart. Do you want to give a brief synopsis for the people about what the book is about? Because I think a lot of
Um,
not of people know what Chinya Achebe's Things Fall Apart
it's been
is
a long
about.
time since I've read it too. As I remember, it's about a family that
Mhm.
lives in Africa,
In Africa.
and essentially this is like the high level story. There's like missionaries that come over to like convert them to Christianity or
America.
whatever
Yeah.
to help the heathens or whatever, or the savages probably is the word they would use. Um, and it kind of breaks apart the family and breaks apart the civilization basically.
Yeah. I mean,
So which
created
is
their
why it's
culture.
called Things Fall Apart. Um,
Right. And so what I find fascinating that they name their breakthrough and breakout album When Things Fall Apart.
yeah.
Think about that. That's what I mean about the juxtaposition of even like the band. It's like you name your breakout album, Things Fall Apart, like after Chino Achebe's novel,
Yeah.
like where things are like falling apart culturally for the family. Has they become more Americanized, industrialized? It's like this is what you're doing, like with your
Hmm.
big push release. And so there's always been a black thought type of cultural stance
Hmm.
that stands with this group. Black Thought's name, Black Thought, is probably one of the most apropos rap names ever. It's one of the best rap names ever, but it's also one of the most apropos because
Hmm.
their Black Thought is everywhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the title from Achebe's novel comes from Yeats's poem called The Second Coming, turning and turning the widening jar, the falcon cannot hear the falconer, etc. But it's about the apocalypse. The poem's called The Second Coming. And
Well,
So
this is
it's about, and it says, the center cannot, things fall apart, the center cannot hold. And so it's the same. There's obviously a reason Achebe, who is a brilliant writer himself, um, takes the title from that poem because it's about the civilization breaking apart, basically.
yeah,
The poem's about like the end times. Yates is writing it, I think, during the First World War. Don't hold me to that, but
I
so
believe
he's
it's
he's
correct.
seeing it like it feels like the world's falling apart
Yeah,
in the
the
First World.
warfare is different because the Industrial
Yeah.
Revolution is happening.
So,
Yes.
um, so it's an interesting through line through Achebe's novel to this album and the song.
Yeah.
Um, this it kind of it fits, right? I mean, and clearly Black Thought is aware of these things as he's writing the song and writing this.
Correct. Correct.
Clearly,
Correct.
clearly he is.
All these
Um,
things.
and so he's telling his own version, I guess, of the same story,
Yeah.
um, of things
There's
that, I mean, this song really is like about things that you would at least wish and hope would be stable and solid and loving and protective and all of those things that families are supposed to be and relationships are supposed to be. And they're this in this case, they're not.
also some foreshadowing going on too. His partner in rhyme, Malik B. Malik B's contributions over the course of the Roots album start to lessen and lessen and lessen.
Mm-hmm.
He dealt with some alcohol and substance abuse problems, and
Right.
so I've, in hindsight, and they address it on Phrenology
Right.
directly,
Mm-hmm.
which
Love
is
that
the
record too.
Love Phrenology as well, uh, which is the album that follows this one,
Mm-hmm.
which coincidentally enough has another great love song on there called "Break You Off."
Yeah.
He's got great stuff, just to kind of highlight thought, but in context and in retrospect, also some foreshadowing with the title, because I mean Malik B pretty much this is the last time he was really part of the group is on When Things Fall Apart.
Okay.
Like truthfully,
I
as far
wondered. I knew there was another MC in it, and I knew that he had left, and I didn't know like when in the timeline that had
yes,
happened.
so Malik B, and is super talented. Actually, there are a couple tracks on Illadelph where you can even say Malik got the best of thought.
And that's
Okay.
not an easy thing to do.
No. It's not an easy thing to do. Even in '96, not an easy thing to do. And you don't hear him as much on Things Fall Apart as you do on Illadelph. And on Phrenology, it's almost, it might as well be thought show pretty much, but at that point. You
Yeah.
feel what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so there was a digression of Malik B that I feel like contributed to this title and this theme as well. There's a lot of core stuff going on within the group. Like
It makes
you're
sense.
like the next movement might as well be a Black Thought solo record. This might as well be a Black Thought solo record.
Mm-hmm.
But there's still some Malik B appearances, like a personal favorite, I think, of mine and yours, 100% Dundee.
That's a great song.
Love 100%
Yep.
Dundee. And that's one of the reasons why a lot of guest appearances started coming in ways that you maybe hadn't seen before as well with the Roots.
Okay.
Partner in rhyme, not there as much. So
We have to tell the people that if they haven't listened to his freestyle on Funkmaster Flex or whatever, that they have to go do that too.
I mean,
That's not the song, but like it's a necessary cultural
you
touchstone. You have to go listen to it.
want to know? I think just hearing Black Thoughts freestyles are cultural touchstones. Definitely start with the Flex one, but like go vacillate and go many places with his
Yeah,
freestyle.
there are lots of different ones. Obviously, that's the one that I'm the most familiar with. But like you said, there are bunches, and
Yeah.
he's a virtuoso.
Like he is. I'm about to say, if you want to hear some of his virtuoso bar work too, like go listen to "Making of a Murderer" with Styles P. Go listen to his verse on "Making of a Murderer." It's just,
Okay.
you know, he's just special. He says stuff like I'm one of his metaphors on there is I'm an ocean without a coast going back to Cali.
Jesus,
Yeah,
man.
he's like that. It's one of those virtuoso performances from him on
Cool.
"Making of
I have to go back and check that out too.
a Murderer." Yeah.
I wanted to say this one other thing too.
He references Cecil B. DeMille on the verse.
Yeah, he's something else. Like for a reference that more white people will be familiar with, like on Fallon, occasionally he'll like do like freestyle, whatever. Lin-Manuel Miranda, you know who that is? He's the guy who
Mm-hmm.
wrote Hamilton and
Mm-hmm.
In the Heights and the songs in Moana and anyway. Um he is he also performs sometimes with a band show kind of called hip hop, not called Freestyle Love Supreme. Um
Okay.
with the V Diggs and some of the other people who are in Hamilton too. Um
Okay.
and and Lynn came on Fallon one time and they did one of those um stupid games where he fake presses the button and it spins around and you have to like make up a freestyle based on like these two things have nothing to do with each other or whatever. And Lynn goes first and then Black Thought goes and Lynn is just like, I mean, he knows that Black Thought's better. This is like a joke, right? So it's so he does his little thing and then Black Thought goes and does his and you're like, oh, that's the it's like watching the difference between a really good YMCA player and an NBA player. It's like that kind of difference. You're like, oh, that's why this guy is who he is.
So let me tell you something. He actually spoke to that in the article in the late '90s about how most guys can't freestyle. He is like, if they were to come in this room right now and you were to ask them to rhyme about the chair, rhyme about the
Right.
desk, they couldn't. That's what he was speaking to because that's how he practices.
And he's good too. Like he's
Yeah,
good. Like he's one
yeah.
of the best I've ever heard. Yeah.
I mean, I think him and KRS-One are arguably like the greatest off the top of the dome freestylers ever. Just
Mhm.
like just going live and just yeah. KRS-One and Black Thought.
Okay.
And
Is
oh,
it,
and
go ahead.
Malik B has since passed away. So
Oh,
rest in peace,
rest in
Malik.
peace, Malik. Yeah.
I love Jolene.
Oh, it's such a fucking good song, man.
Great fucking song.
Did
It's
you know? Did you know it before this?
obviously this is the album that I'll always love you comes off of. And so when I heard how brilliant this record was and saw that I will always love you, this is the album that it came from too. I was like, I have to go listen to this album like immediately,
Hmm.
as in like tonight. And that's one of the few times that that has happened on this side in terms of music that
Right.
you've given me. Like some of the stuff that you've given me that's already great, I've already listened to.
Right.
Like the Beatles stuff,
Clearly,
already
yeah.
heard. Nothing wrong with going back and freshening up on the Beatles, but in
No,
terms
not
of
at
what
all.
we've gone through so far, this is probably a top two or three song to me in terms of musically making me want to be like, no, I'm going to go back and listen to this entire piece of work.
Yeah. The
That
legend go or one of the legends. We'll talk about lots of legends because she's a great storyteller. So it's hard to tell sometimes whether or she's embellishing stuff and when she's not. But what the legend goes that she wrote this song and I Will Always Love You. For those of you who don't know, like Dolly Parton wrote this I Will Always Love You, like the one that Whitney Houston made famous in the Bodyguard soundtrack with that giant note. Um,
everybody know that by now,
yeah.
and if they
But
will.
Dolly Parton wrote the song. The legend goes that she wrote the two songs on the same day, like which are two of the like single greatest
Well, that's
songs that have ever been written
well, I was about to say. Well,
ever.
that's one of the best songwriting days in the history of
Yeah,
songwriting.
it is
Period.
without question.
Period. Yeah, without question. If she wrote both of those songs in the same day, it's one of the best days in music
Hmm.
history. Period.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
Actually,
Dolly, like,
for
I
the
mean,
melody,
everybody knows who Dolly Parton is, just kind of as a caricature or whatever. Blonde wig, big boobs, whatever. Like that's just her, like her
I think that's
whatever.
what she became
But
post career.
yeah, like she is probably the first thing that I wrote on my piece of paper about this one is Dolly is the Queen Mother. Like she is probably, at least in the wider culture or whatever, um, probably the single most universally beloved musician that there is. Um, like
Really?
in not most famous, not most important necessarily, but like can't find anybody to say anything bad about her
There we go.
kind of
Okay.
way. Think of her like Stevie Wonder, that kind of way. Like
Wow.
like everybody loves Dolly.
Everybody loves Stevie. Right. No,
Yeah.
I get it. Yeah.
Um,
Everybody doesn't love Michael Jackson. Everybody doesn't love Prince.
right.
Everybody loves Stevie Wonder.
It's not for everybody, right? I mean the
Right.
yeah. So she's one of those people, like one of the and she like there's so many people like in American history who have made up like bullshit rags to riches stories that have um made a career telling those stories. Hers is a
Mhm.
real one. Hers is like a legitimate, real rags to riches story, like born like 10 brothers and sisters, Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, no running water in your house, kind
Oh,
of.
Pigeon Forge, Tennessee.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, like way, way, way back in the hills. Um,
Yeah,
um,
that's
and
that's the
like
mountain.
left home like the day after she graduated from high school, and went to Nashville and decided that
Wow.
she like, and now she's worth like $500 million or something like that, some like absurd amount of money.
I mean,
Um,
it's funny. When I listen to this record, I'm thinking to myself, who in the hell is making Dolly Parton feel insecure in her prime?
that's one I wrote a whole like half of
who the
that's about this.
who,
Like
who the hell's making
this is
Dolly
from the mid
Parton feel
'70s.
insecure? Yeah, it's a Dolly
And
Parton in the mid 70s, right?
yeah, this is pre-plastic surgery Dolly Parton. This is not that, and Dolly Parton's very open about plastic surgery and very open about all those things. Like
I mean, she was naturally
she does
beauty.
interviews where she talks about it like um being like if you own a fine automobile or whatever, every once in a while you got to take it into the shop and get it tuned up. Like and she is like very open about that. It's not like an embarrassing thing for her or whatever. It's
Well,
just
I mean, most of what she's lauded for is natural and just touched up and nipped
yeah.
and tucked. Most of it's natural. If you go see
If you
her
go
in the
back to
mid,
the '70s, she looks like that too. Yeah.
right, she looks like that in the mid 70s. It's like those things didn't come out of nowhere. They kind of grew
Yeah.
on her. Right,
But
right.
I want to come back to one thing you just said because it's really important. In the song, she's touching on a feeling that's universal, like that everybody has, and it's a comforting feeling in some ways to think like if this woman in this point in her life who looked like that can feel this way, then everybody feels that way sometimes. And she says in interviews like there's always, no matter who you are, man, woman, whatever, that you're all not always afraid that there's somebody that's going to turn your partner's head, but like there's always going to be somebody who could probably, or that's the story that she tells anyway.
It
So
just kind of reminds me that it's like even the most beautiful women need to be told by the per. And listen, it's very important. And this is what it made me feel on a personal level. The most beautiful women still need to be told that they are beautiful by the person that they want to hear it from. It means
yep,
nothing that all these millions of people are telling Dolly that she's beautiful.
right.
It means nothing.
Hmm.
She needs to hear it from him
Yep. And
to
she's
make
been
her
married to the same
feel.
guy for like 40 or 50 years now, or I mean
Yeah,
a long, long time.
yeah.
And he is like it's sort of a gag that he doesn't even exist. I mean, he does, but like because he doesn't do photos, he doesn't do press, he doesn't go out with her, he doesn't like nobody ever sees him
He
ever.
doesn't get in the way. He lets her be the legend that she is.
Yeah.
He doesn't interfere, and he doesn't want
Hmm.
to interfere because he understands it's gotten her and him
Yep.
have $1 billion. Right.
Yep.
So he's actually probably more astute and savvy than he is
Yeah.
probably being given credit for in the public eye because he's not in it.
He doesn't have any desire to compete with her. Like
Well, I
there's
mean,
no reason to.
kind of got the girl. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
He already won, right?
Yeah, you already won. You got the girl. You got the biggest star in country music history, didn't
Yeah.
you? Yeah, she's like an icon unto herself outside of music.
Hmm.
Yeah, it sounds like he won pretty big. I'd be cool with just,
Yeah.
staying out the
Y'all say
limelight.
whatever you want to say. I don't care.
Right. Whatever you want to say, I'll be somewhere chilling with her while you're
I
talking
was gonna
about.
say I'm happy, she's
Yeah.
happy.
Right,
Doesn't matter past
right,
that.
right.
No,
So
she tell
lyr-
go ahead.
lyr-
Go ahead.
lyrically very descriptive record. The Auburn hair reference is what struck me.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, the girl looks nothing like you, huh?
Hmm.
And so immediately I start to see it's like, oh, well, she's kind of got like auburn reddish hair, freckles. Maybe she's like, Dolly's voluptuous. Maybe this one's a little slimmer and
Hmm.
curvier in a
It's a
different
different
way.
style. Yeah.
Yeah, a little different style. Maybe hair a little bit thinner and falls a little further down. Like I started seeing the person when she made the Auburn descriptive reference. that's the power of descriptive and great songwriting. It helps
Yep.
you to visualize. It's like, who is this bitch?
Yeah. She tells
I'm
she
mad.
tells the story. Go ahead.
No, go ahead. It's like, no, no, no. Dolly almost makes you feel like sad for her and mad at the girl, like really fast. It's like, who is
Yeah.
this?
You want you and that's the point, right?
Who
Like
is she?
you
Right. And no,
want
and that's
everybody to be mad at her.
because it's kind of like that's probably how she's feeling. She's feeling a little disturbed about it too. Like it kind of stuff. It's like, who the hell is this broad?
Like this the story that she tells about it, and I've heard her tell it in interviews and in concerts in like two or three different ways. But um the 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 summary is that this was a bank teller that
Mm-hmm.
um in Nashville, and that was chatting up her husband while she was like out on tour or whatever, and she didn't know like what their relationship was or wasn't or whatever, but she's the phrase that I've heard her use is like he was spending a lot more time in the bank than we had money. So this was early, right, shortly after they got married. So she one of the versions of the story she tells is she goes up there and he like yells at her like and gets in a fight with her, um and that the phrase is, hold on, I wrote it down, almost beat her to death with her wig, like the woman almost beat Dolly to death with her wig, um but she got to keep her husband. So the woman backed off. She also says she went home and kicked her husband's ass too. Now, how much of that's an apocryphal story and how much of that's a real story is I don't know. But
I think
um
there's hyperbole in there.
yeah, I would imagine that's some of that's probably a little bit exaggerated, but every time I've heard her tell the story, it's about a redheaded bank teller in Nashville. So that I think that part probably is true.
This is what I mean about the descriptive writing, though. She said Auburn,
Hmm.
and I immediately see a freckle faced redhead. You know what I mean? Like the opposite of Dolly.
Hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
She immediately sets the scene for you. It's great.
Yeah.
Where else do your notes take you with this?
It's fascinating to piggyback and continue with this. Like she says, like your smile is like a breath of spring. She's talking. For those of you who've never heard the song, you should listen to it. But she's addressing the song to this woman. It's not just
Yeah,
about her. She's like
yeah,
speaking to her.
woman to woman.
Yeah. And she says, your smile is like a breath of spring and your voice is soft like summer rain. I cannot compete with you, Jolene. Like it's,
Where she talks about he says your name at night in his sleep.
yeah.
I was
And it's
like,
all
oh,
that I can do to keep from crying when he calls your name, Jolene. Like that's poetry, man.
I,
Yeah.
I mean, those are bars.
Yeah.
Those are bars,
Yeah.
and they're emotional.
She tells her, please don't take him just because you can.
I mean, it's hard to make a man feel sad for a woman like
Yeah.
Dolly Parton.
Yeah. And everybody feels sort of sorry for her now. Not now, but like in the story of the song.
No, this. I mean, this. Like, I think this is more of a mark. What got released first, Jolene or I Will Always Love You?
I think this one did.
I can,
I don't know that
this
honestly.
totally feels like the first single because you want to know what the the rhythm, the melody of it, more catchier.
Yeah.
And as crazy as it may seem, the songwriting's actually a little better than
Yeah.
I Will Always Love You. Not by a lot, but
No.
slightly.
No. The thing
And
that
then that
always
makes it
carried I Will Always Love You is the singing more than the lyric.
correct.
Not that
Because
it's
I
a
think,
bad lyric, just
yeah, because I think Whitney has better songs than I Will Always Love You too. It's just
yeah.
vocally the performance of it. It's like, oh
It's
well,
just like
nobody can do that. So well,
no.
nobody in the history of music can do that. All right,
Yep.
well, we're done here, you know. But
Yeah.
that's a vocal performance
Hmm.
song that
Yeah.
highlights that this is a songwriter song. That's what it
Yeah.
is. This is a songwriter song.
It is. And it's sneaky because it's catchy and because it's not doesn't sound like a pop song, but like people have done pop-ish versions of it. But it sneaks some of those lyrics under the radar there.
Is Dolly like Garth Brooks, like in terms of how she's viewed as like a megastar hit maker, or who would you comp her to? Like what in her genre, what is it that they're going
Dolly
Dolly
is
for? Like I know you said she's Queen Mother, so she's a representation and a symbol and a symbol of
mhm.
something bigger. but musically, what are we going to her for? Because it's like when I'm hearing this, it's like, well, I hear a really great songwriting.
Yeah, she is a great songwriter, and she wrote or co-wrote most of the songs she's famous for. This
So,
one, this one, I Will Always Love You, 9 to 5, Islands in the Stream
oh,
that
I
she did with
remember
Kenny
9 to 5.
Rogers. Yeah, all those are Dolly
I remember
songs.
that one too. Yeah, I
Yeah,
remember some of these records. Yeah, she's big, big.
yeah. Like she is one of the ones that everybody knows. Like everybody knows Stevie's Superstition. Like regardless of and Higher
Right.
Ground and that kind of thing, right? Like those are the same
Overjoyed,
kind of songs that
ribbon in the sky.
right.
Right, right. One of those. So
So
okay.
so she is.
So she's a game changer.
Mhm.
Because
Yeah,
Stevie's a game changer.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
There's not many
This
people.
around the same time. This is around the same time as
Yep,
Stevie too,
mid
isn't it?
'70s. Yeah.
Man, it's a great music.
It's hard to say. Like there aren't many really famous country singers that also wrote most of their famous songs. Most of them worked with songwriters and so forth, which is fine. I mean, or sang other people's songs or did covers. There's lots of that going on too. But she's one of the ones that wrote most of the songs that you know her for, or
Hmm.
at least co-wrote most of the songs you know her for. Most of the others that do that are the um, the kind of the outlaw country people, the Stapletons of the world, but also Johnny Cash, Willie Nelson, Waylon Jennings, Christopherson, those kind of guys.
Hmm.
So we'll get into more of those later. That's not really the point of this episode, but they're not just pop singers. They're not just like performers.
Not just
They're
artists.
also songwriters. And they are, I mean, they're doing the country version of it, but they're also triangulating Dylan and Joni Mitchell and Paul Simon and all of those people too. Like they have some of that skill too.
No,
That's
I heard some Joni Mitchell type skill going on with this record, which was pleasantly surprising to me. Like, I
people
mean,
underestimate Dolly Parton's songwriting skills because of how
that's
she
what I'm
looks.
trying to say is it's like, how about this? Of all the legends that we've covered so far, I don't know if I've underestimated anybody's songwriting the way I have hers, just based on the
And that's
listening to
common.
this one record that appears to be a common theme for her.
Mhm.
So you would put her like in the annals of high level
Mhm.
songwriting. And you know, it's funny too, and this is something that I realized in the listening to this song. Not all, black love is tenuous, but so is other people's love. And if
No,
you
no.
ever want to hear
It's
about
not
it,
just a black thing for
right,
sure.
it's not just like I say black. I can't even lie. Part of why I say black love is tenuous is because, well, we're writers and we're wordsmiths. It sounds
It
good,
does sound good.
and it's
And it's
approachable.
your experience too, right? Like that's
And my experiences have shaped my thoughts on those.
right.
Correct. But to hear a song like this, from Country Girl from Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, which I can probably get to in about, I can get to Pigeon Forge about 70 minutes from where I live,
Hmm.
you
It's way
know?
up in the hills for those of you who don't know.
Yeah,
Like,
it's up in the mountains. But
yeah.
I mean, like has people who follow my Twitter and
Hmm.
have seen birds flying in my house can attest. It's like, well, I kind of live in the skits on the north side of Atlanta. So, Tennessee is actually not too far from where I
Right.
live. Um, no, but what I hear also too, and this is another reason why we do those shows. It's like, well, while I'm always screaming, black love is tenuous. Well, it's like, we'll go listen to Jolene and understand, well, love is just tenuous sometimes,
Yeah.
period.
Yeah.
You know?
Especially when people are playing games.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't have to be, but like it's yeah, it's a and
Like when he calls your name in his sleep, that's strong songwriting stuff.
hmm
You know, that's going a place emotionally that most people don't even want to travel because that does something to somebody just to have to sing that.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. It's and to circle back, like the idea, especially that it makes it feel more universal, right? Like because if anybody like if you can imagine somebody cheating on that woman at that point in her career, at that point, I mean, she's a bombshell even at 70, but like at that point she was like in her we would call it in her prime. I mean, this is like an Eric Benet Halle Berry kind of thing.
She
that
was
kind of
atomic bomb status at this time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Like she's a bombshell now, but she was atomic bomb status then.
yeah.
Like could have blown everything up when she walked in a way. Right. Like as in your marriage.
Yep. And that's the thing. Like you would think of a woman that looked like that being the other person in this
Mhm.
story, right? And that's one of the geniuses of it is that it's inverted. Like it's that she's the that there's somebody else that's the other woman. She's the one that's trying to keep her man.
Yeah.
And you listen to it and you're like, if she can't, then
She's
like
has look, Dolly has to fight for a man. You can't trust these guys. Can't trust these guys.
yeah.
And also too, and listen to where I'm about to go with this. It's just kind of like a next level thought. It makes you also wonder, well, how is she treating him? Because sometimes the most beautiful girls treat men the worst.
Mm-hmm.
And so there's also that juxtaposition of like, male train of thought. Well, what did you do that made him go seek the attention of the woman? Were you paying him attention? Because, well, you're Dolly Parton. You can go get attention from anywhere. You get what I'm saying? There's
Yeah.
all types of questions that this song can make you ask, but that's the mark of great songwriting. That's what I mean. It's like I could go flip it on the other side and be like, well, what was she doing that made him go do that? You know?
Mm-hmm. The it
You know,
touches actually the same thing that
the, uh,
the Root song does, because the story goes that it happened while she was out on tour.
right.
Like so she was away, and that's why this woman tried to weasel her way in. And the story of the Roots song
Right.
is
But
he's out on
sometimes
tour too.
sometimes the pretty girls are sneaky, the mean girls. It's like I'm looking for some sort of love in my life. You dig me? I'm
Mm-hmm.
politicking with my sister from New York City. He said he knows this ball player, and he thinks I'm pretty. Pretty girls behave different, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
And so there's some of that going on in both of these songs too. And that's kind of what makes the songwriting even more brilliant for on Dolly's side. Is like, oh, the pretty girl's talking this way.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Like, it even happens to her. Yeah.
nobody's immune in
Yeah.
this game we call love. Yeah.
Yeah.
So beautiful record. Definitely gonna go listen to the full album.
Yeah. It's a beautiful album and a um beautiful song. Yeah. So
She's done a great job of crossing over into every sphere, not
mm-hmm.
just like the black sphere. Like she's an American icon.
Yes, she is.
She's an American icon.
Yeah.
She is somebody that is attached to the legacy and the musicality into this nation. There's something about her that is attached to America. It's not just country music. Is that fair?
Right. Yeah. She's an American hero, like it, and
Right.
like an
Yeah.
icon. Yeah.
Like Stevie Wonder belongs to the black community first, but he belongs to everybody.
Yeah. Exactly.
She's kind of the same way.
It
So
works the same way. Yeah.
yeah, I kind of like the context of putting him with her, and it makes me want to get into her songwriter because I feel he's arguably the greatest songwriter ever.
Oh, I love Stevie Wonder, man. Oh,
I think he
we
is.
need to do. I think I've said this before. We need
We
to
need to
do
do a
something
Stevie
with
Wonder,
Stevie Wonder.
Paul McCartney.
We can do that.
We need to
That'll
do
be
that.
good.
Yeah, the highest level songwriters.
They're they're the high level.
Yeah.
They're it.
You want to know? Yeah, no. I think we should do that. I know it's mostly like a hip hop thing, but that's something that I think that we should do
Talking
that
about
on.
Stevie Wonder is important. Like I
Yeah,
think.
yeah. Stevie's just Steve. Like I break rules about certain guys. Stevie's definitely like at the top of that list. It's like, well, that I don't care if that's like and just real quick before we go, so many rappers have borrowed from Stevie.
Okay.
So many rappers like the Game is about to drop on Friday too. Just to kind of plug his album right quick. He's about to drop Drillmatic, and on the documentary 2.5, it starts off with a record that sampled Rocket Love.
Okay.
And the sample didn't get cleared. So if you have the original version with the Rocket Love sample, that song is 20 times better with the Rocket Love sample than it is without the Rocket Love sample. The Jizza on Liquid Swords, Cold World, that actually is an interpretation from a piece of Rocket Love. I just went to one song, and I went to a West Coast artist and went to an East Coast group, and both of them took from the same song. And most people don't even know Rocket Love like that.
I don't.
Like that's not even one of his bigger known hits. Go play Rocket Love. Rocket Love is off Hotter Than July.
Okay.
So that's 1980. So that's around the time when a lot of these rappers or kids and their mom are playing
We were playing
Stevie
this.
in right. So he's part of hip hop culture too. Yeah.
Yeah. So
He probably after James Brown, production wise, he writing wise is hip hop's biggest inspiration outside of hip hop. Like
that's
James
a good
Brown
one to choose.
it's James Brown's sound and style, but the songwriting can be traced back to Stevie.
Okay.
When you go to that high level, like when Rakim and them start popping up in Wu Tang Clan, it's like no, that kind of it goes back to Stevie. They take a lot of Stevie stuff too.
Yeah, and
So
a lot of similarly, like a lot of there's not a lot of people who can do Dolly, like can do who can put together because her lyrical content is not complex. Like the words she's using are not complex, but the story that she's telling fits the lines perfectly. It's immaculate songwriting.
and she's got it too.
Yeah.
And it's hard to sing the songs from the people who have it. Like even if you have the vocal chops,
Mm-hmm.
like think about this. It's like, well, you kind of got to be a Whitney Houston type of singer to take Dolly Parton shit. What does that say about Dolly
Yeah.
Parton? You
Dolly
know what
Parton is a surprisingly underrated singer. Love songs
No,
too.
no, no,
Like
no.
her voice
She's
is
she
really good.
actually I know her more for what I know of her, and I'm about to go find out more now.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been her voice for me. I've always thought her voice was wonderfully beautiful.
It is a beautiful voice.
Yeah, so I wasn't even keen on the songwriting and the aura like that, but yeah, this record it's a game changer. This might be her most notable record to me because I
Yeah,
mean I feel
this is
like
probably one of the most. If it's not her most famous, it's certainly one of the top two or
yeah,
three.
yeah. And I mean, and she's going to be super, super. Imagine this. Even if she doesn't become this icon, just off the fact of the credits from giving the song over to Whitney and what happened with that, and getting the
Yeah,
credit from that is that's
and
that's the
she
type of
says it's like Whitney's song. Like I mean, she is like I mean, she still sings it in concerts or whatever. But like
getting that
it's
shit. And she get the check she getting for that song is ridiculous. So
no,
she's not.
but she's like I can't sing it like her. I mean, like it's not
But
nobody can sing it like Whitney though. I mean, it's
I mean, and we can talk about that too. I mean, isn't that the best like studio vocal recording performance like ever?
if it's not, it's certainly one of the best. Yeah, it's
I mean,
absurd.
if somebody has a better live recording vocal performance in studio better than I Will Always Love You, I mean, that's fine. I don't think so. I haven't heard it yet.
As I say, you're probably wrong, but like
I
you
mean, yeah,
can,
real talk, you probably have to go to like some Mahalia Jackson, like gospel from like
mhm.
1954. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, like nothing in modernized music. You have to go to Billie Holiday singing like in Harlem or
Oh
shit.
God, that voice.
That's what I'm saying. Like
We
you
I
have
don't want to get into Billie Holiday stuff now, but
yeah, you'd have to go there.
that's
Like
another one of those voices that's just like,
yeah, I mean, Strange Fruit still makes me cry, like when
mhm.
she sings it. So yeah, great show. Like and subscribe to the page once again, guys. We're growing. We
Yeah,
appreciate all the
we're
love and
getting there.
support too. Yeah, we're getting there.